There is much grief over the idea of letting go because depending on what's being released and the value attached to that will determine the difficulty perceived. This is why it's important for us to experience our growth cycles, because it's through this repeated sequences of events that we are able to gain understanding, as all of our senses are involved, showing us things through these faculties that reading a book or sitting in a classroom cannot. Ask anyone who has had the ability to travel. It's different than watching from a technological device, whether it's a television, smartphone, or computer. And so this Earth Mother has much to share with her children, which is why we are so enamored when we take in her messages through all the medium she expresses herself through. In comparison to what we learn in school, it's divine feminine energy on steroids. In other words, the knowledge we gain through this particular study, instruction, or experience is greatly enhanced and is only considered unnatural because the effect on our senses comes from within. And when compared to those who believe they must go without for the answers they seek, not only do those who go within tap into the highest source and begin to speak on things they never read from a book, but they can also demonstrate, if not more, a connection, even as many writers have done by way of inspiration. I can imagine how difficult it can be to swallow one's pride surrounding advanced studies, especially when one is able to speak on these topics and not only speak on them, but have a profound sense of wisdom and meekness due to the soberness and clarity of mind we have when we rely on the highest source for our inner formation, or what you would like to call information. It speaks volumes when clarity disturbs, because it means ignorance was reigning in that regard. And it's the perfect opportunity for correction, not for shame, but to grow in divine intelligence and the consequences thereof. Those making this shift already know, because that experience educates them to that. Hence, they do not need to be taught, even as mentioned in 1 John chapter 2, verse 27, because their very desire to go within is evidence of the anointing taking place within them. It's a very divine choice, considering the odds stacked against us by this system that encourages us to do otherwise. Because when we actually decide to think for ourselves, we are the minority and not the majority. Even as so-called elite are the minority, holding roughly 30% of the U.S. wealth, those who hold divine knowledge are not the majority, and what Bible scholars like to call the elect or the chosen. It is the Most High's remnant, a small group of individuals who have tapped in to the divine source, which is why it's not difficult for them to remain steadfast, because the clarity is there with regards to who they are. They aren't confused about their origin. So when attempted to adopt the idea of wealth in a carnal sense, they simply can't, even if they do not hold this so-called elite status. That means absolutely nothing to them, since the inside of these ones does not match the outside. This discrepancy is the reason why their power is fleeting. It's like a split electrical wire. The resistance is greater and more dangerous, posing a fire hazard, as opposed to a single wire that has lower resistance but high current capacity. So when it comes to being at the top of this system, it speaks more to the resistance than the conductance of divine intelligence. Hence why the education promoted is higher, in the sense that the resistance is higher to our alignment with our divine source. It will not promote our ability to connect directly to the Most High. Being split, it will always reroute us away from that. I'm capturing my journey. Feel free to like, share, comment, and subscribe if you get the picture.